Hello, friends. Welcome to Logistics of Logistics podcast. My name is Joe Lynch. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's topic is Trimble's perspective, the future of freight, with my friend Rob Painter. Today is a very special day because we're in New Orleans, and it's the Trimble Insight Tech Conference. And even more special because we have Trimble CEO Rob Painter. Rob, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're pulled in a lot of directions today.
No, I'm happy to be here. Welcome to New Orleans. Welcome to Trimble Insight.
Thank you so much for having me back. I interviewed you last year. Last year was when you had the big announcement with Platform Science. It was here today in force. So anyway, please introduce yourself and your company and what you guys do, and give us kind of the pillars for Trimble Transportation.
Yeah, so hey, I'm Rob Painter. I'm the CEO at Trimble. I've worked at Trimble for over 19 years. I've grown up in lots of different parts of the business, lived in the US for most of the time, in Colorado. Also lived in Europe for a bit. Trimble is a 48-year-old company founded by Charlie Trimble in 1978. In November, in fact, so we're just hitting that 48-year anniversary. Fun fact, I'm only the third CEO in 48 years.
I heard that yesterday. Jonah McIntyre said, he goes, it's kind of incredible for a company of this size, 3 CEOs.
It really is incredible, and that continuity in leadership and strategic direction has served us well. And for a long time, actually, more than 25 years, we've had a vision of connecting industries, connected supply chain, connected construction, connected forest, connected rail, connected utilities. And we are at a point where we have manifested that into reality. The technology that exists today and the business models that exist today are really helping us accelerate what we call a strategy, connect and scale.
So who are your customers, and what are problems you solving for them?
Well, the customers we serve at Trimble are primarily in 2 industries, engineering and construction and in transportation.
Right.
Within those industries, I'll get asked sometimes, why those and what's common. This is solving problems that link work in the field and the office. We like dirty boots, real work in the real world. So the fleet, the stack of Trimble technology intersects what I like to think of as the where, what, and why. The where represents positional intelligence, awareness, location awareness. And that goes to the roots of Trimble back into the 70s. And we can talk about that later. What looks like the problems that a customer is trying to solve. That manifests usually as software. And the why is the analytics. And these days, we'll, I'm sure, talk about AI and data. And we've been doing AI for a very long time before I knew that we should have been talking about it, because it's everything that we want to talk about today. This intersection of the tech stack of where, what, why, applied to physical industries, connecting work in the office to the field, where the customer problems come down to needing to do work better, faster, safer, cheaper, and greener. When that's the nature of the problem, and we can double click and be more specific about the nature of the problems in the transportation industry, our technology makes a positive impact.
Yep. And I think either you or Michael had it yesterday that 1 million trucks are connected to Trimble technology, and I think $60 billion worth of freight going through the systems every day, every year. I'm sorry.
It's a pretty unique ecosystem that we've built. Over 160,000 carriers are in our work in our system. Over 1,500 shippers as well. So if you think about the corpus of data that is unique, both at a carrier, shipper level, broker, 3PL for that matter, Europe. Centricity, North American centricity, actually global centricity. I mean, we do business in over 170 different countries.
Yeah, we were just talking about before we hit the record button before you came in. Trimble is global, and when you Google the top logistics tech companies, I won't mention the names, but Trimble's on that list. But there's some above them where you go, they hardly even do logistics. And I always have felt that Trimble flies under the radar, but I've said it last year when I was here, every conference you go to, people say, oh, we have visibility. But they didn't create the visibility. Here's where the visibility is created. Right. All of your partners in the pavilion area, whatever you want to call it, they're the ones creating that connectivity with you and Trimble. And everyone else is saying, oh, we have we have visibility, and it's basically something they got from you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully you can help us change that, amplifying the Trimble story. And thanks for giving us
Well,
this platform.
thank you so much for having me. Usually when I talk too much at a conference, I don't get invited back, but I got here again today.
Okay, well, you've been a repeat invitee.
Thank you so much. So I want to get a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Some career highlights before you ran the mothership Trimble.
Well, okay, I'm from the great state of West Virginia. I was born there, graduated high school and college there. In between, actually, I lived a few different places, including here in New Orleans. So I've spent some formative years.
Yeah, you
you
mentioned that at the conference. You said it's a dangerous place to live.
Yeah, you can get into good trouble here. You can get into bad trouble too, but you can definitely find trouble in this city, and a lot of fun, and just great people, great community here in New Orleans. After I went to college, I've had jobs in consumer packaged goods and retail. I did go to business school, and after that lived in most of the East Coast and then the West Coast, and moved to Colorado in 2001. Fun fact of my path to Trimble was nonlinear. My wife and I actually met in California and just decided that we wanted to live in Colorado, and so we drove out there with all our possessions in a car, planted a flag, made a life, and so it's the sort of privilege of a lifetime to have been able to find Trimble and make my way here, and then to be able to grow up in the company.
Very nice. So you had options. What made you come to Trimble and stay at Trimble?
You know, I feel like I work at the United Nations every day. I love the global context of what we do, and to be able to work with colleagues who are from all over the world.
They're right here.
Exactly. I've literally seen the world through the lens of Trimble. I've been on the Great Wall of China through a Trimble business trip, in the Taj Mahal in India, on the top of Kilimanjaro, and I could go on and on of the places I've gotten to see. And so I'm such a believer in globalism and the connectivity that happens, to make the world a little bit smaller when you can get outside your own comfort zones and see that. So that, to me, I was very attracted to that. With the people at Trimble, it has always kept me at Trimble, and I've always talked about people, purpose, and opportunity. That's my intersection point with Trimble. So the people, that gets to that the global aspect of what we do, and really good, solid, kind people that we get to work with. I think about purpose. We spend more of our waking hours every day at work than we do with our friends and family. I want to do something that makes a difference. When we talk about purpose at Trimble, we talk about move the world, build the world, feed the world. An enormous amount of global commerce runs through Trimble. That engineering construction business we have, we're literally part of building the world. We're involved in the agriculture market as well. And some of those statistics I was talking about yesterday in the keynote. We're going to need 70% more calories to feed a world's growing population by the year 2050. Urban areas are going to grow by billions of people in that time frame, and we expect a tripling of freight demand in these decades to come. I want to do something that makes a positive impact in the world, and the good news is when you work at Trimble, you get to contribute to that as we help enable our customers, again, to do their work that better, faster, safer, cheaper. And by the way, when you do that, you're doing it greener.
Yep. I was struck by yesterday in the keynote where you guys had some video of your customers saying, here's what Trimble did for us. And these are not, this is Microsoft, this isn't Google. These were little trucking companies around the country. Well, not necessarily just little. You got a lot of big trucking companies also, but really solving issues in a business that is really plagued with problems over the last couple of years. And saving 5%, making 5% more, it's everything in this business. Last year I interviewed a gal named Cindy, who's now a Trimble employee, and she said the difference between us making money and losing money was Trimble routing. And she said they're out in Nebraska, and she said this is the nature of the business. If you're not on the right route, you're losing money. And I was like, it's a hard business.
Yeah. I mean, where you look at the operating ratios of the companies that report publicly, and of course private data as well, shows that it's a business with thin margins. It benefits from anything that can help drive optimization and manage costs.
So I was bugging you the other day, first day of the conference on Sunday, and you're in a unique position because you serve the housing and construction business, but you also serve the the transportation business. And I know a lot of people in the industry, the transportation business, are saying, if only housing starts to just pop up a little bit, if we could just see come March and April, a whole bunch of flatbeds moving, that would pop us out of this freight recession. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I also have a global lens on that too, right? I might have some different data points in Europe versus North America, but let's focus on North America, given your audience. I would think about breaking the construction market down into some of the end markets, and if to the extent that there's any wisdom in this, it's about segmenting the market and finding the more attractive opportunities. The country itself is not going to be the same. By the way, overall punchline of residential is not good. Okay,
Right.
so sorry I don't have better news on that, and we see that through our construction business as well. But let me tell you, in the construction business that we have, data centers, onshoring, reshoring of manufacturing, renewable energy projects, just anything energy related overall, are strong markets. And really, I think I could look at the civil infrastructure coming off the bipartisan infrastructure law has driven a lot of infrastructure development in this country. The current administration and the policies they have are driving reinvestment back into the United States, and that's a good thing for many pockets of the construction company, and therefore for trucking companies serving those subsegments, as it were, that's a good thing.
Right.
In terms of the business that can be found, and can be had, and that can be served. Relative to residential, okay, there's, in a way, you could say there's 50 different answers in the U.S. depending on which part of the country.
Yeah, exactly. There's
we're in.
building going on in Florida right now. I know that.
Lots of people moving there, but even that, market has slowed down as well. You see markets such as Texas, though, continue to be really solid.
Yep.
So follow the data within residential, as well as following the data is following the impact of tariffs. These have been inflationary to the residential market, and so I think two data points I think a lot about relative to residential are interest rates. And where these settle, and how quickly, said a different way, how quickly they'll come down, as well as where we end up on tariffs. And to the extent that trucking companies or anywhere in that supply chain can help reduce costs to let's say the end product, that's going to be a good thing. And because if you're in residential construction, that is a pain point for affordability, is the cost. Right. So if through the logistics you can help reduce the cost, the delivered cost, hey, that's going to be a good thing to help you differentially stand out.
It's interesting, even though we're in a freight recession, there are companies doing well. There's companies that are investing, and they're here. And I've been to a lot of conferences lately, and one of the things, there's a lot of companies I talk to say, well, we're picking up ground. The best companies grow during these times. While their competitors are unable to invest in the latest technology, in new trucks, new people, whatever, the best companies are saying, okay, this is our opportunity. So I think we're seeing, at least for sure in the brokerage market, we're seeing the top 1,000 guys, top 500 guys growing much faster than the guys at the bottom.
I can see where there's a certain mindset in a given context, in that, I've tended to say, when we've hit tough economic pockets, we want to position ourselves to exit a crisis
faster,
in a stronger competitive position than how we entered it, and that kind of mindset can carry into folks who are very forward with technology. And this is not a sort of a new thought. Technology is a differentiator.
Yeah, so you opened the conference with a great keynote about compounding interest. So talk about that and how it relates to the trucking business.
Yeah, sort of like the story behind the story. I don't read a lot of business books anymore.
You read them all.
I used to read them all. And then, each business book tells you this is the most important thing. And you're like, I cannot have time for all the most important things if everything's the most important thing. And I'm much more fascinated by change and managing change through organizations and therefore through humans, because we're not, we're kind of fundamentally wired to resist change. And there's that quote that I love. It's that the pace of change has never been this fast. It will never be this slow again. It's quite deep if you really think about it. And so this idea, and it goes in mindset, and we've heard the growth mindset, a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And I'm fascinated by this idea of just being a little bit better every day. And I was going to look at the data. Do you believe, Joe, you could be 1% better at your job or your life today than you were, right? 1%. Okay, well, here's the thing. If you were 1% better every day, in a year, you'd be 37 times better. Like, okay, and this gets to the power of compounding. So one of the things I was talking about in the keynote through a context of a story of compounding was given the group who was there, one of two choices, and choice one, take a set of cash up front, and choice two, take this magic penny, and this magic penny will double in value every day for 31 days. That penny, 31 days later, that doubles in value every day, is worth over $10.7 million.
I'll take the 10.
31 days.
I'll take the penny.
That's you sort of think about that. And then the way the compounding, works is you don't really see those big gains until closer to the end of that 31 days, and the point is that a lot of that work, that getting started, that grind to get better, you have to be patient. You have to be courageous to stick with it, to start. It's like, just get started, and then be patient to continue on that. And I feel like we've seen that and continue to see that in our own journey as Trimble as a company is, the fruits of what we've been showing and talking about these last couple of days. That's not the result of work that happened 3 months ago. A lot of it started 3 years ago.
Right.
And then you got to you got to grind it out to put the foundational places there, such that then we can show, for example, the next generation, TMS, our next evolution of where we are in maintenance. And now to be able to layer in AI on top of that.
I say this all the time. We all want to get better every day. I want to be 1% better than I was yesterday. AI is.
Yes.
AI, you can almost guarantee, if you like it this week, you're going to love it next week. If you love it this month, it's going to be great next year. Yeah. So I always say that's there's been a big focus here. One thing I thought was interesting, I talked to Jonah, your head of product yesterday, and we had a conversation about startup AI companies that are all around, and the incumbents who are implementing it, like you guys. And he said, we have to be measured. We have to do it right. We have the largest companies in the world don't want risk. They don't want hype. They don't want overpromises. And he said, so we're moving in this direction. And he goes, if you look at the startups, they got nothing to lose. They have no customers.
Right.
And he said, so they'll say, yeah, we're making bombastic claims. And when he started kind of going over the gains you guys have had, I mean, they weren't being bombastic, but they were impressive. And he's talked about, Trimble's been around a long time. He says we have pre-internet stuff, then we have internet stuff, then we have AI stuff. And he goes, and it's quickly moving to the AI stuff. And, I think it also came up yesterday, we've had some big advancements in our space. GPS was one of them, TMS was another, ELD, and now the next one is AI. So talk about all what you guys are doing with the AI.
So we're absolutely applying it for our internal productivity and efficiency and quality. It's helping us increase the velocity at which we develop. And lots of people who are in the space will appreciate that. We see it from improving how we manage customer support or deliver customer support. We see it from how we process our own legal team and contracts. We see it for contract proposals. We see it for marketing. We see it as a co-pilot for editing. Like a human assist. I mean, I could just go function by function. It's really cool to see our teams leveraging.
But first internal.
Very much internal. Well, I mean, and let's talk about external, very customer-facing issues. Anytime we can increase velocity and on our own internal development turns into what our customers are going to see and how quickly we can deliver that. Customer facing, this week, to give you a little taste of what we announced, roadside assist, invoice processing, or
Order
just
intake, I saw.
order intake. Thank you. So 3 examples of AI, and these to me are in the category of very practical examples
Oh, yeah.
that today can be slow and kludgy, and frankly, they're probably the worst parts of many people's jobs, and where we can automate that.
I saw that, and I thought about the order intake one, because I remember I managed a logistics company. I remember when I got there, it was a turnaround, and I was like, God, I have inherited an army of clerks who are getting faxes and emails, and they're putting it into our systems. And it was enormously time-consuming. And now, if somebody decides they have to send me an order attached to an email, I just forward it, and boom, it's in my system, or your system that you're supporting me with. I love that, and I feel bad for the young people growing up who won't have to do 40 hours of data entry like we all started our careers doing.
I mean, just imagine, and you don't have to imagine, I mean, just think about, we can turn days into minutes, hours into seconds, and that's powerful.
Yeah, well, it's also, we'll always have a fight for talent, and it's hard to convince a young person now, and I always say that the consumer tech drives what we know is possible in our business lives. So when I get a lift from the airport to the Trimble conference, I go, oh, that was so simple. An extra 2 steps, and I'm like, oh, lift is clunky. Right. We got used to those really nice interfaces and the speed, no wasted effort, and I think we're bringing that now. I think we all have expectations of consumer-grade tech at work.
And when I tell you, simple is hard.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Taking steps out. Oh, my God.
That.
Yeah. Especially when you get all the engineers and all the customer experience people saying they really need this. They really want this.
It's very true.
So one of the other things you talked about yesterday was you said connect and scale, and you had kind of a process you walked us through. Talk about that if you don't mind.
So we launched a strategy we call Connect and Scale in January of 2020, a couple months before the world shut down.
Oh, goodness.
And I'm so glad, though, that we started on that path. That it's the right strategy at the right time for the company, and I think for the market and our customers. And this, what we're seeing this week, to me, feels like it's yet another validation of the direction that we're heading. When we talk about connect in the Connect and Scale, we talk about connecting people, data, workflow, and ecosystems. And when we talk about scale, we talk about making ourselves easier to do business with and to help us efficiently and effectively grow as a company. So when we think about that context of connecting, or the solutions that we have, let's just sort of pause there for a moment. We believe we've got the best purpose-built solutions in the market, and so we want to call them pillars or stacks from TMS to maintenance to final mile to routing to mapping to navigation to dock and yard management to real-time visibility to freight audit to procurement and our freight marketplace. That's can serve, at a carrier level as well as at a shipper level. That's a singularly unique set of capabilities that we have. And yes, we've been an acquisitive company over time to help assemble this, and so often we might define the stacks as, well, we acquired Transporeon, announced that 3 years ago, and we acquired the ALK business, so going on 15 years ago, and the old TMW, and okay, we may manifest and hear us talking in that respect. But from a customer perspective, I think they don't care about the stacks defined as such. It's what are the capabilities? Right. And then think of those capabilities as the ingredients, and those ingredients are what we're bringing to life. Now, that's what Connect and Scale requires us to unlock, literally to connect the pieces for the benefit of the customers. So, for example, we brought capabilities like the visibility in the marketplace, dock and yard management, freight audit, which really came from the Transporeon acquisition, and we've brought those to North America and have those to take to market. Our mapping business, we sell into the customer base that exists in Europe, because that's the right thing to do to meet the needs of the moment and to do what our customers are asking us to do. So really to connect. And as we connect the solutions, that starts to look like connecting workflow. Because at the end of the day, customers are trying to solve problems,
Right.
not just a task, but actually what's the system, that problem that there or opportunity there that we're addressing. The problem a customer may be trying to solve could be around within safety, it could be within maintenance, it could be managing fuel, it could be managing risk, it could be managing weather delays. Yeah, maybe it's a weather delay to get an ETA actually is the problem you're trying to solve, and you need to connect data from multiple systems. That's a workflow now that you're connecting data across
Right.
multiple systems. So we believe, more pieces than anybody of those ingredients, so to
Right.
speak, and we can connect that work. That's workflow, and that the move from what's better than the best solutions, it's connecting workflow. What's better than connecting workflow? That looks like connecting ecosystems, because as much as we do at Trimble, we don't do everything. And so
Right.
we have a bias towards openness, and so you see in the hall here that some may define them as competitive, and I'll tend to define it as complementary. And we want to be open. We know we don't do
Right.
everything, and we think that's what the industry needs to really go after to solve the problems. And by the way, ecosystem, I want to make sure we see that. That we define that more than, let's say, a carrier ecosystem. It's also shippers. Like this week at the Insight Conference, we have more shippers than we've ever had attending this conference.
say,
That's pretty darn unique
A lot of
to
shippers.
have that community here.
So there's a lot of your tech partners, and some of them compete with you in some areas, but ultimately, I think your partners, I should say, you guys partner to help the customer.
Right.
And you stop competing when it comes to, let's make sure we have customer success first. But a lot of the people who you work with are here, obviously, a lot of your customers, and a few of your partners said to me, I come because I'm a Trimble partner, but I have a whole bunch of customers here this week.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's nice. And I won't mention the names, but I just was asking friends who have booths, I was like, is this working out? You getting business? And everybody's getting business here. So this is a good step.
Good.
So we talked a little bit about your partners. Talk about who your customers are and why are they Trimble customers? I mean, I'm sure there's something that you look at and go, these are the right thinking guys. These are the guys who like Trimble. Who are they?
Well, I'll actually start with some of the shippers. Some of the very largest brands in the world operate on the Trimble platform in our network. If you you got it right. You said you got a lift from the airport. Okay, well that car probably unless it was an electric car, okay, it's filled with gas. Those oil companies, those are Trimble customers. If you had a cup of coffee this morning, chances are that it was from a Trimble customer. The hotel properties where we're staying, they're Trimble customers. It's so pervasive. We'll often talk about Trimble everywhere. We're really part of our everyday lives. If you take a carrier perspective on that question, who are our customers? Hey, we have customers, truckload, less than truckload, bulk fuel carriers. We have 3PLs, brokers. Our customers tend to be more in the mid to large size. I'd say that's a segmentation, where they have the sophistication and the resources to be able to manage technology. But we've really cut a broad swath.
Yesterday, we were in the media roundtable, and I asked the question. I've said this a few times on my podcast lately. We have had cargo theft. We've had cybersecurity issues. I still kind of feel like, not to be a drama queen, but are we headed for like a digital 9/11 or a cyber 9/11? And I believe the day after that, everybody's going to reassess where they're at. And ideally, you don't wait that long. And this is no shade on any transportation systems out there, but not everybody can spend on the cybersecurity that you need. If you're working with a very small company, just recognize that they don't have billions of dollars to spend on this stuff, and I think that's a risk. And I can see how some shippers, especially the big ones, are going to start saying, "Hey, who are we working with technology-wise? And if I was a large trucking company with the theft that we're seeing, I don't know if you paid attention to Guy Fieri and Sammy Hagar.
No,
They own a
impersonating him?
They own a tequila company. Of course, all celebrities have to have a tequila company. Somebody stole 2 truckloads of their
I didn't
tequila.
know that.
2 truckloads of their tequila got stolen,
Okay.
and the truck drivers never knew they were stealing it. They picked it up, dropped it off where they said, another successful shipment. Somebody got into the systems. I don't know whose systems they were, but I'm sure they're freaking out
got
now.
it.
And there's all sorts of that happening. And I just keep thinking, if you're a big transportation company, if you're a big shipper, you need to start looking towards your technology partners. And you need to vet them and make sure they're big enough. And because big is maybe a replacement for competent,
Right.
of able to spend.
Well, if we look at the shipping business that we have, actually one of the main value propositions we have is the vetting of carriers, that trusted network of carriers. When we're working with the largest shippers, think of the CPG companies, they absolutely care a lot about who's shipping, who's moving their product.
Oh, yeah.
And so that is it's a bigger value proposition than some might realize, to find that right carrier to move, right carrier for the right load at the right time at the right price, is why you would look at a system like that. As a company of our size, Trimble's an S&P 500 company. We spend tens of millions of dollars a year on cyber. It's a pretty astonishing, the cyber resilience. But I won't say cyber proof, because nobody is proof of the risks. I'm very humble to the risks that are out there. It's a kind of complicated, nasty environment out there, and we spend a lot of time and effort. Not only how do we prevent it, but how would we recover from it. With the scale we have, we're able to have, I think, differential relationships with some of the largest cloud providers in the world. We encourage our customers, increasingly to move more of their workloads to the cloud, because we believe they can be more cyber resilient and redundant when they're in the cloud. I say resilient, like I'm humble that
Well,
it may not be proof.
if something does go wrong, you want to make sure you're back and running the next day. I recently interviewed a woman on my podcast who, she was military intelligence for 8 years, went to West Point, and when she left, she went to an intelligence company, and they help people avoid these kind of threats. And she said, when I was growing up, my mother told me when I was going certain places, just don't be a target. Don't look like an easy target. And I think, I've also heard people, I was at the cybersecurity conference last year in Cleveland, and the main thing I heard was hygiene, just the day-to-day best practices that companies of some scale get to, where you say, this is what we do. And let's face it, I'm just afraid the smaller companies aren't doing it.
Well, regardless of the size of a company, the biggest threat from cyber actually comes from inside.
Yeah.
The phishing attacks.
Oh my God.
And so, if you're...
They're getting so good too.
They are. I mean, we see deep fakes of me. Around our company, and so you have to be vigilant, and so the best companies put efforts into training their employees not to click on those nefarious things.
Here's the video of Rob giving me a 20% raise.
So
take it down to HR.
Click here. I will not send you that email.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, and I think we've also struggled to make money. There's a lot of companies that are struggling to make money, and at the same time, and this was kind of a theme yesterday, struggling to make money, and then you somehow have to also upgrade systems to battle through some of these things. And I think, I've done this, my 5th interview here. I've heard the way to go forward improving your trucking business and do it safely. And again, it's the right partners. I think I heard yesterday, it was either you or Michael said, secure, because we're under attack, open so we can collaborate with our partners, and I think the last one was connected. We got it.
Yeah, that was Michael walking through that, and I think company, even when times are bad, actually that's often when companies step back times are difficult or, slower, sometimes those are the exact opportunities companies have to say, okay, now let's be future forward. Let's be on our front foot. Let's not just sit and wait. Let's actually intentionally step back and do things that can make our business better and stronger.
So to wrap this up, why don't you tell me what you foresee in 18 months out, 2 years out for our industry? Not just, I know it's hard to predict, how well we'll be doing. Hopefully we're out of this freight recession. Although if you're a shipper, you're like, what freight recession? Life's good. But for the industry, what do you see 18 months out in terms of the technology and kind of the improvement that I think is being driven by all the stuff we just talked about?
Yeah, hey, man, if I think about the freight economy overall, this will eventually correct. It can
Someday.
I think it can be, easy to start to feel like this is the way it's always going to be. But I think one thing Jamie Dimon, CEO of J.P. Morgan, describes a recession as something that happens every 7 years. Like these, okay, so things move in cycles, and there's having a certain perspective. Those who've been around the industry for a long time know that we've had these environments. And by the way, we saw the exact opposite inverse of this environment, during the COVID.
Yes.
During the COVID period. So these things will come in cycles, and I think perspective matters in a world where I think we get fed that everything's wrong and it's the worst it's ever been. I actually don't think that that's true. So
we're still living indoors, eating every day.
so let's keep a perspective, control the things we can control, and I think if you operate that mindset, and then within that, how do we just be a little bit better? Chance favors the prepared mind. So that's very much on my mind relative to the market and relative to companies and where we go with technology in the landscape. I'm in the connected. Can't connect that data, connect your workflows, connect your ecosystems, unlock more value out of what you're already getting. And that's the benefit of a user conference. Is we talk about, hey, you're investing in these solutions. Let's make sure that you're getting the most out of the money that you're already spending. Let's be really clear about the problems you're trying to solve, and let's apply technology to help solve those problems. And I can think about that in the context of, let's say, the P&L of a company. It's revenue minus cost equals profit. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Like if you just try to keep it simple, how can you increase revenue? Well, part of that is, how do you minimize those empty miles? How are you finding the right freight? How are you optimizing your networks? Technology has a role to play there. As you manage your costs, you're managing fuel costs, you're managing labor, you're managing maintenance, you're managing insurance, you're managing that depreciation on your assets. So if you can use your assets more efficiently, and that means maybe you need less of them, you have less depreciation, less cash out the door. Manage your fuel. There's fuel optimization from people like ourselves and others. Okay, you can get an ROI. It's ROI. I tend to think that people won't necessarily. If you can deliver the ROI, I think you can have an indifference to the cost of the technology. You have to deliver the ROI. You have to be able to prove it. You have to be able to demonstrate it.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a lot harder these days. But again, you're talking about the upper half of the industry, the top half of the industry. They can spend the money, and it's still tough. I'm sure no one wants to spend money on new technology, but I can tell you, I talked to people here this week who are doing things. I've done 750 interviews. Two new companies that I never heard that the software they create, and I hear stories about what's going on in the market. I heard somebody with a gas card. They asked, "What are you guys? Why are you here?" And they said, your truck could be getting filled up, and it's not actually a gas station because somebody stole your card." And they said, "We're connecting our card to the Trimble tech. And so when your truck's in Iowa, but the card is trying to be used in California, we stop it." And I was like, oh my God. And I always think that's the connected you talked about. I can prevent somebody from being defrauded just because I'm connected to the ecosystem that you guys have created.
So let's break down those silos and connect.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy man. And thank you so much for this conference. This has really been a great one. And before I forget, where's the conference next year?
San Diego.
All right, you can't go wrong there.
Come see us again.
I sure will. Thank you so much for taking the time, Rob.
Good to see you. Thank
Yep.
you.
And thank all of you for listening to my podcast. Your support's very much appreciated. Until next time, onward and upward. You have been listening to the Logistics of Logistics podcast, where we engage with leaders in the logistics and supply chain community. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, hit the like button, and leave us a nice review on Apple or Spotify or wherever else you listen. Also, please check out our videos on YouTube and connect with us on LinkedIn. We're very big on LinkedIn. And you can also reach us on the logisticsoflogistics.com, our website.